Hello everyone. Welcome to Biblical Prophecies Fulfilled. This is the 9th discussion in our series titled, The Death of Adam Was Spiritual Death, Not Physical. You can find this fact sheet on our website. This discussion considers two major concepts of the Bible, the nature of the death of Adam and the nature of the resurrection. They are linked because a misunderstanding of the death of Adam leads, most likely, to a misunderstanding of resurrection. God said, "Of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat, for in that day you shalt surely die." We see that Adam and Eve did not die physically in that day, but we see them expelled from the garden in that day. They were alienated from their Creator, which was spiritual death. We see the alienation or estrangement understanding of death throughout the Old Testament. Backsliding into idolatry and immorality are shown repeatedly in the Old Testament and referenced as death. Please notice number 3a, b, and c. These Old Testament passages are worth careful study to understand death and resurrection. In Paul's famous resurrection passage, 1 Corinthians 15, he used this same figurative language and passages of the Old Testament to speak of resurrection. Paul did not construct a new doctrine, but maintained that he taught only what the prophets and Moses said would occur. The law and prophets spoke of being out of communion with Yahweh as death, and Paul continues that line of thought. As an aside, we need to remember that Paul was living in the 40-year period referred to as already but not yet, which accounts for his future orientation. Please see document number 7 for that discussion. Jesus' deliverance of mankind was not salvation from physical death. If that was the case, it was an abysmal failure, because all of mankind, believers and non-believers, will die physically. Jesus' salvation was reconciliation with the Father and consequently deliverance from spiritual death to spiritual life. Jesus said, "He who hears my word and believes in him who sent me, has passed from death unto life." Someone may ask, well, don't you believe Jesus rose from physical death? To which we say, a definite yes. But we need to remember that Jesus himself stated that his own physical death was a sign, and a sign always points to something greater than itself. Jesus' physical death pointed to his spiritual death of alienation from his Father. Recall that he agonized when he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Jesus' physical resurrection pointed to spiritual resurrection, which was reconciliation with the Father. This leads us to consideration of resurrection as taught in the New Testament, not as corpses rising out of the ground, but the passing from spiritual death to spiritual life. Jesus said that by believing in him, the believer has passed from death to life. Passing from spiritual death to spiritual life is an unseen event. Throughout his letters, Paul maintained this same understanding. We are dead in trespasses and sin. Our deadness is defined by our debased moral condition and alienation, not our physical state. We conclude, from our study, then, that the death of Adam was spiritual and likewise, resurrection is spiritual, an invisible event that takes place when we believe Jesus. We encourage that these verses listed here be studied in context. A few added thoughts. It appears that physical death was part of the natural scheme of things before the fall. The reason we believe this is because of the existence of the tree of life in the garden before the fall, which implies that death was a possibility. In addition, growth, eating and reproduction require anabolic and catabolic processes, that is, building up and breaking down, the latter of which are death processes. Thank you for listening, and we hope you will join us in the next video. Shalom.